A very good evening to our principal, Ms. Padma Srinivasan, HOD English, Dr. Atika Dayal, esteemed colleagues of the English department. We are here to discuss skills for effective online teaching. This was a workshop which was conducted by the Delhi Public School HRD Center in association with the British Council. As it's rightly said, gaining knowledge is the first step to wisdom. Sharing it is a step to humanity. Today, I, Sudipta Chatterjee, have the good fortune to share a few key points of the workshop with all of you. So we began with the workshop with the Executive Director of the DPS HRD Center, Ms. Vanita Sehgal, talking to us and giving us some examples. She spoke about Colonel Sanders, who's associated with Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, and how he became an icon only after the age of 75. And of course, numerous other examples like Webster, who published his dictionary only at the age of 70. And of course, we also have Barbara Hillary, who was the first Black woman to reach the North Pole, and that too at a very, very young age of 75. So the point to be noted is that there is no age to learning. And we, at this point of time, need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. We also had Mr. B.K. Chaturvedi, the Vice Chairman of the DPS Society, addressing us. And he spoke about how 2/3 of the population do not have internet connectivity. And then he spoke about the economically weaker sections of the society and how they are finding it difficult to access the internet. So even though these online sessions and virtual classrooms are actually very helpful and really good, but they are not able to supplement the interpersonal skills, which are extremely crucial. Then he spoke about the assumptions that one makes about teachers in general, that one, we should have excellent communication skills, and of course, a thorough knowledge of our subject, which is a given. And along with that, we are very well versed with the system. So we're able to handle our PowerPoint presentations and work on the computers effortlessly. But the question is there good connectivity for the students belonging to the economically weaker sections to attend these classrooms? And then he went on to mention that it is very crucial for all of us to be understanding and empathetic, because I think more often than not, we tend to not look at the problem. Also, many of them are using the mobile phone to log into these classes. Now, of course, there is a huge advantage because they're able to access these classrooms. But there is also a limitation, and that is the screen size at times is so small that they might not be able to see it very clearly. Moving on, he also mentioned about the main idea behind all this, and that is we as teachers, what we need to do. And it's important for all of us to be patient. So he said, well, learners that we have are young learners. They are very good at learning, but they cannot help asking silly, ridiculous questions. And it is our patience which, at the end of the day, will make them richer intellectually. And of course, then we began with the session in a very formal manner. We had Ms. Purbani Das, who is also the academic manager at British Council, who took us through the session. So I would now request all of you to pay attention to the slides, and looking forward to a very interactive session. Thank you. All right. I'm just going to unpin myself so that in case any of you speaks, I should be able to see as well. Right. Webinar objectives. In this webinar, we will cover tools and skills for teaching effectively online, the elements of a good online lesson, ways to support your learners. What are the key skills we are looking at? To be accountable, responsible, proactive about learning technology, which I think all of us are doing it. Following up with everyone involved, that's crucial. talking to people, communicating. Collaborate with parents, the children, as well as colleagues. Be prepared for the new dimensions in the teaching medium, because there are going to be changes. We have to adapt. We need to be flexible. All right. Now, I'd like all of you to perhaps mention in the chat window, what are the specific classroom challenges on a virtual platform? And what is it that maybe you have faced? And if you could share with all of us. What are the specific classroom challenges on a virtual platform? Yes, that's correct. Mic not working. Some students go to sleep, right? Connectivity issues, definitely. I think that's one major aspect. Yes, the students are hesitating in asking their doubts. They're not very comfortable doing that. Yes, exactly. We are not even aware if the child is actually there and if the session is being attended by the parents only. Yes, the fear that the student is not near the screen. We don't know how attentive they are unless asked questions. Exactly. So we need to keep it, we need to keep asking them questions in between. Like I'm asking you to write things down in the chat window. Precisely. We don't know how attentive they are unless the questions are asked. Exactly. So that's the first one, which I think most of you would agree with, dealing with technical issues. Now, when it comes to technical issues, it could be of various types. It could be that their microphone is not working, the camera is not working, and at times they're not even able to write anything down. They're not able to express themselves. So a lot of technical issues. And of course, something all of you would have faced, that in between they would sort of unmute themselves and tell us that they're not able to hear us clearly. And of course, we have to tell them that maybe there is some issue with the Wi-Fi or connectivity at their end. Motivating learners. I think this is very crucial. And as you can imagine, it's very difficult, especially in a scenario where it's a virtual classroom. The motivation levels are guaranteed to drop because the classroom setting is different. Managing interaction. Now, this again is a challenge because, in a classroom setting, it's easier because you can put them in pairs, you can put them in groups, you can ask them questions individually, and that sort of, takes care of a lot of things. Also, dealing with poor performance. Now, what do I mean by that? So our slow learners or children who are generally not able to grasp things in a classroom situation, when they hear other children speaking, or they probably get a prompt from them, it's easier for them to not just understand the concept, but also answer the question. So this becomes a challenge on a virtual platform. And of course, speaking and pronunciation activities, which we as English teachers can definitely relate to, because a lot of times what happens is when they see us in the classroom, they are actually also looking at our lip movements. And this has happened with me as well. Like when it comes to the economically weaker sections of the society and those children we are teaching in class, at times you have to sort of enunciate in a manner and use those gestures which would allow them to understand the English that you are speaking. Because the idea is, as an English teacher, I can never speak in any other language but English to explain something to them. But I have to make it so clear to them and enunciate it so well that they are able to understand. So these are the challenges that we face in a virtual platform, which most of you did mention. Technical issues, motivating learners, managing interaction, dealing with poor performance, speaking and pronunciation activities. All right, moving on. Now we come to what is called CPD, which is an acronym for Continuing Professional Development of Teaching Skills. What resources did the teachers find most useful to help them develop their skills? Highest rated first. This was something that was shared by the British Council people. They had done a research of sorts. First, they speak about something called a formal course. So it could be done maybe online, or even through a YouTube video where you can understand how to teach maybe on a Zoom platform or maybe in a Google Meet or even Microsoft Teams. And then, of course, this would make things a lot more structured and makes it more useful. Next, people, talking to people, and that could be colleagues, mentors, seniors. That is very important, to reach out to the right kind of people who will give authentic information, who will also help you understand what is it that you need to do and how is it that you can improve upon or improvise certain aspects. Next, of course, videos. Thanks to the internet, we have a plethora of videos which we can access, which also tells us how to go about certain lessons and how we can conduct them effectively on an online platform. Articles and blogs, which would again tell us specifically what we can do. Social networking, again, plays a very important role. There are, of course, even LinkedIn groups which discuss problems that the teaching faculty faces on an online platform and the things that can be done. And this can be discussed amongst people from all over the world. So that's the beauty of it. And of course, resource books. At the end of the day, we all sort of fall back on them and try and see how better we can make this experience for our students. And lastly, MOOCs. Does anybody know what MOOCs stand for? It's of course an acronym and something which is really taken up or rather garnered a lot of attention in these days and times. Any idea what MOOCs stand for?
It's some online courses like massive online.
Yeah, so it's massive open online courses. So yeah, you're correct, Shruti. And we have different types of online courses available right now, and they are mostly even free of cost. Even British Council, as a matter of fact, is providing a lot of online courses which are absolutely free of cost. Right, moving on. Right. So some useful resources, maybe once I show you the screen with all the elements, you could probably take a screenshot of it, or I could share it with you at a later date. So the books that one can refer to, Teaching Online, Hockley and Clanfield. I actually checked this. This is available on Amazon India as well. So if anyone's interested, they're most welcome. And if you look at the original version, which was published in 2010, it just shows, well, they sort of knew it was coming, that the fact that the online teaching is going to be so popular and it's going to get so important in these days and times. Next, videos. So the different types of videos that you can refer to. And this also includes recordings of other classes. So that might just help you know maybe how better you could conduct your class. Articles and blogs, you can refer to them. I looked at the Nick Peachy one. That was interesting because it did give some tools and techniques that one could incorporate. And of course, because this is a British Council workshop, so they insisted that whatever they are providing online is quite good, and maybe the participants could have a look at it. So you might just like to take a screenshot of this. If not, maybe I can send it to you later as well. Right. I'm just waiting. I'll just give you a second if you're clicking a picture, and I'll move ahead then. Right. Now we're looking at, again, the acronym Continuing Professional Development and the soft skills. Now, as you can see, it's a graph and it's showing you what is important. And of course, everything is, but in order of preference, as you can see, time management becomes the most crucial. And then, of course, adaptability and technical skills, self-motivation, interpersonal skills. So if you think about it, these are the qualities ideally all of us need to have, regardless of whether we like it or not. The technical skills have to be on the spot. You need to know how to go about the online classes and the PowerPoint presentations, and basically trying to make them as user-friendly as possible so that the students can adapt to them. Also, that brings me to the next point, the adaptability. So if we are making things easy for our children to adapt to, we need to also be able to adapt to it. And of course, it does not happen easily. There would be challenges to it, but we need to adapt. Interpersonal skills, this is crucial because we need to check with one another. We need to speak to our colleagues. We need to identify how to go about lesson plans and what we can do. This is very crucial, I feel. And this sort of helps us in understanding if we're doing the things right. Like I remember the class 11 coordinators met up on a Google Meet, and we decided to solve the listening skills passage ourselves. And we realized, the problems maybe even the students could face. And you could actually empathize with the children and realize that, okay, it's possible that if there is something that goes missing or wrong in the Google form, how much it's going to impact the child. And of course, my colleagues know how much it impacted me when I did not score as well as them. So similarly, that's how our students are. Self-motivation, very crucial, but becomes a big problem because at the end of the day, we need to be excited and absolutely energetic so that we can plan better for our students. So if we are thinking about the learners and how they would react to it, perhaps that would help us motivate ourselves. And of course, very crucial, time management. So working from home has its own challenges, because one has to manage the home front, and of course you're working full hours as well. So how to take care of the time management so that we are not actually spending hours and hours in front of the screen, and ensuring that there is productivity at the end of the day. All right, next, I'm moving on. This is a bit of advice from the teachers at the British Council, and what they said could be adapted by all of us. Start your journey as a learner to truly appreciate the challenges your learners will face. So literally trying to be in their shoes, understanding that yes, there could be an issue, there could be a problem, and having the skills which would allow you to understand them better. Basically being empathetic. Be focused, organized, flexible, and professional. So a lot of adjectives, but actually it makes sense. The focus is important. Organization is important. One needs to be flexible. One has to be professional. So all the activities also as a department that we've been organizing, I think we've been actually putting all these skills to test. So whether it be the inductions or the intersection competitions, we are all ensuring that our students at the end of the day are benefiting from everything. Try and find parallels with your current teaching style and online modes. There is a counterpart or equivalent to almost every aspect of classroom teaching online as well, occasionally better. So of course, it is a new medium for all of us. So we are also learning with each passing day. And what's important for us to realize is that the online platform is also becoming a boon for the language teachers. And I'm sure I speak for all of you when I say that I think our English lessons are becoming more, I think they are more well researched, and I think we are able to give them a lot more content, and we are able to give them a lot more information, which we otherwise might not have done in a regular class. And of course, the most important thing that they keep emphasizing, manage time well. And that's not just professionally, but personally also. One has to keep that balance, which is very crucial. Watch as many, it should be lessons, or okay, that's fine. Watch as many lesson recordings as possible, yours or another teacher's, to understand ways to make your teaching more effective. So obviously, like at times when we even join as co-teachers, it's quite exciting to see the different ways in which the teachers are taking up the modules and the lessons, and it's always a learning experience. So what are the positives? Some of the positives of teaching online: more opportunities and choice. Would any of you agree with this? Do you think that happens? Would somebody like to unmute and say something? Do we have more opportunities and choice in the online platform?
I think as teachers, we have more opportunities. Visually, we are able to present so much more than we could in class.
Right, absolutely. I think that is definitely making a huge impact.
And even we, like you already said, we've done a lot of research. I think we enjoy teaching more than the students enjoy learning.
I know. That's absolutely correct. Right. So it can shape the future because it is giving a lot more opportunities and choice, better access to a lot more students. So now here they basically meant that, if there are children who are in other parts of the country, they are able to attend your lessons as well. And I think we are doing that in class 11th. Like some of my students, they are joining in from Bombay and from, Mumbai and from other parts of the country. And it doesn't even feel as if they are sitting in a completely different city. Better, diverse working opportunities, chances that maybe we can also multitask and do other things as well as continue with our teaching. Better work skills, we become more organized, time management has improved. I don't know if I can say that for myself, but yeah, definitely more organized. I feel the lessons are, I think I'm more thorough when it comes to, preparing the modules and presenting them in class. Built rapport with the people I work despite living in a different city.
May I just interrupt you? I think we've become more collaborative in our teaching with this online teaching system. That is what I feel, when all of us are working on separate modules, separate lessons, and then we brainstorm ideas. I think a lot of collaboration, which was not there initially, is now happening on a very large scale. I think collaboration is one thing which is a takeaway from this online teaching.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. And, the amount of teamwork that we can actually see coming into play, that's just amazing. I'm adaptable and prepared to learn in different ways anywhere. I think this is true for all of us because online teaching has really changed us as individuals and as language teachers. And I know how much we would, focus on, how teaching in class was more effective rather than, ask the extra marks guys to show something on the screen. But now that we're doing it ourselves and coming up with, unique ways of showing even abstract things to children, I think it's just amazing. Deeper understanding of learners. Help me to understand the concept of being in a community as a teacher as well as a learner and how important it is. So we as teachers are, of course, understanding, but we are now also taking into consideration maybe any sort of issues that the learners or the children might have. And we are trying to come up with alternative measures so that the children are not left out in any manner. All right, the next aspect, anatomy of an online lesson. Right, now this is the time to see how alert all of you have been. So a few questions for you, so don't get scared. And it would be nice if you could write your answers in the chat box. And your question is, think about a great training session or workshop you took part in. What made it so good? So you have to think of any good workshop that you ever attended in the past. And if it was good, why was it good? I'll wait for you to type out your answers and we can have a discussion. Yes, absolutely. Interactive. Lots of ideas. Yes, Paul Gunashekhars. Yes, exactly. Know your learner. Yes. Method of resource sharing. Correct. Communication was excellent. Yes, very important. Storytelling, interaction with the coach, where step-by-step training was given. Exactly. So I think all of us would agree that it was basically very interactive and it made, well, thanks, Shraddha. I don't know. We'll get to know after a few slides if you people are still there or like the students in our class, you know what they do. Right. So yes, it's important that the sessions are interactive. The person speaking has a good command, is telling stories, sharing anecdotes. Absolutely. Now you have to give me about a terrible training session or a workshop that you took part in, and why do you think it was that bad? Why was it so bad? Yes, exactly. Monologue. So pretty much like lecturing. There was nothing new. Yeah, I think we faced that a lot of times. Yes, it's a one-way communication, very long and tedious without interactions. Yes, and always lecturing. It's always done in a linear way. Absolutely. I think all of us have been there and we know how it feels like. Trainer was monotonous, yes. Lot of slides and repetition of slide by the presenter. Yes, exactly. No takeaway, very important. Slides were not clear, a lot of material on one slide. Yes. So, it's difficult to, grasp so much of information if they just decide to, just give you a lot of information altogether. So a good training session is or has, and these are the few things that we just discussed. Of course, it has to have certain clear objectives, practical, hands-on. There has to be a takeaway, clarity, ideas, interactive, fun, personalized, some element of group work, organization, planning, repetition, tests, flexible questions, multimedia. So it has to be an amalgamation of all these aspects, and that's how it becomes good. Now, coming to the key elements, the three things that one has to keep in mind: planning, delivery, and takeaway. I'll try to go a little faster. I don't want all of you falling off to sleep, right? So, but I can assure you something interesting is coming up. I decided to have something interesting for all of you. Right, so planning, very crucial, and all of us as teachers have to do that. Understand your participants' needs, level, and interests. So this is something we have in mind when we are going for our classes as well. Now, this is important. This is something that they discussed. Consider a flipped classroom approach. Now, what I thought was, to make it a little clear, I thought I would just show you a video. They didn't show us any videos. This is something I decided to put in on my own.
The flipped classroom is a new method of teaching that is turning the traditional classroom on its head. Every day, thousands of teachers deliver the exact same lesson in class to millions. Typically using video lessons on YouTube.
I'm sorry.
And then apply the
My
knowledge
mistake.
by solving problems and doing practical working.
I'm sorry, I switched off my microphone. So I'm just going to restart it once again. Sorry.
The flipped classroom is a new method of teaching that is turning the traditional classroom on its head. Every day, thousands of teachers deliver the exact same lesson in class to millions of students. Every night, millions of students sit over the exact same homework, trying to figure out how to solve it. The flipped classroom is turning this upside down. Traditionally, students listen to lectures and take tests in class, and read textbooks and work on problem sets at home. In flipped teaching, students first study the topic by themselves, typically using video lessons on YouTube, and then apply the knowledge by solving problems and doing practical work in class. Modern schools who flipped their classroom report many benefits. 1. It allows all students to learn at their own pace, as videos can be watched again. 2. It's more efficient, as students enter the classroom prepared to contribute. 3. It enriches the classroom, as more time can be spent on group work and projects. 4. Doing homework in class allows students to help each other, which benefits both the advanced and less advanced learners. Flipping also brings changes for teachers. Traditionally, teachers engage most with the confident students who ask questions. Flipping allows teachers to target the students who really need help instead of just those who are confident. Also, instead of instructing from the front, teachers guide on the side. This allows them to work more closely with individuals or small groups. Teachers that are not great presenters can use third-party videos to explain the concept and focus on methods of teaching that suit their style, such as project work or experiments. Once video lectures are made available online, teachers don't need to give the same lecture over and over again. Again, they gain more time to focus on the needs of their class. Many scholars also argue that the flipped classroom model promotes equal learning opportunities, as all kids get the same attention when doing their homework. Currently, kids with caring parents, older siblings at home, or expensive private tutors have a clear advantage over those who don't. Let us know what you think. If you were a teacher, tell us if this model would be possible in your class.
All right. So that's what a flipped classroom means. I'm just going to log in, put in my earphones, just a second. Can you, am I audible? All right.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we need to consider the flipped classroom approach, if that works. Discuss the planning process, where we are basically identifying the needs, the interest level of the participants, which becomes very important. So planning the outcomes, what is it that the children, the participants, the students are going to learn? How will they benefit? That has to be identified. We need to ensure variety. So different types of activities that can be incorporated, because we aren't exactly looking at a very strict syllabus, so we can bring about changes. We have to ensure interactivity as much as possible, and perhaps even try to get children who are perhaps maybe shy to speak, involve them in activities perhaps like blend art, where maybe they're doing a painting along with poetry, or certain other elements that can be incorporated to ensure that the children are enjoying it and everybody's enjoying it. Again, it has to be participant centered. We have to ensure that at the end of the day, the children are benefiting, they are enjoying the lessons, and we are able to incorporate any issues that they might have, which they can share with us, and then we make the changes accordingly. Build in signposts and reviews. Now, this is essential. We need to understand what is it that we need to be achieving. We need to do a review. We need to understand that if what we had planned and what we did in the classroom, was it effective? Did that help the children? If not, how we can tweak it? Maybe we can discuss it in class, and then also ensure that the level of motivation is also increased. Why are the following important? We'll just quickly discuss it. Okay, now, do you understand what a pre-session questionnaire means? Would anybody like to venture a guess? A pre-session questionnaire, any idea? Okay, anything else?
Maybe your expectations.
Okay, all right. So even I had the similar thoughts in mind, but apparently when they speak of a pre-session questionnaire, it is learner-centric. That means that we need to create a form where we are asking the children what do they like, what are their interests in, and what they feel is at the end of the day, the child will feel that the teacher cares for me, cares for me a lot, because the teacher wants to know what I like to do, what I'm interested in, apart from studies. Pre-session tasks is what we just discussed, that a warm-up session basically that you just mentioned, where you are asking them certain things, sort of making them ready for the lesson so that they can anticipate what's coming. Again, very crucial, joining instructions, more so for the online classrooms. Like even when we conduct the listening, speaking skills, we need to tell them beforehand what is it that is expected out of them, what we need them to do, so that there is no problem or issue on the day when we are having the lesson or when we are having a test, so on and so forth. So the training session model: define, inform, connect, resolve. So I'm going to quickly take you through this. This is something all of you are familiar with. Define the issues or skills or development areas being covered, which has, of course, the clear aims and outcomes, relate to the participants' own context, review or discuss pre-session tasks. Next step is to inform and make them aware. So again, all of us do that as teachers. Like we need to define things very clearly so that we know exactly what is it that the child is expected to have learned, or what is it that the child needs to be aware of during the session, at the end of the session. And we need to relate it to the participant's own context. So this is something as English teachers we keep doing. We are always giving them a context with which they can make an analysis, and also critical analysis, like what do you think, questions like that, giving them the the idea that they can give the answer based on their contemporary situation, or based on how and where they are placed in the community, in the environment, in the school system. Review, discuss pre-session tasks, of course, very important. We need to let them express themselves, and we need them to speak with each other, so that like the poor performers who might just be hearing what the others are saying, can also pick up and understand what's being discussed. Next step is to inform, that is to make them aware. That means we need to tell the children very clearly that this is what we have planned, and therefore this is the route that we're going to take, or this is how the lesson is going to develop. Connect participants to the strategies through practical activities such as role plays and discussions. Of course, the one thing that they mentioned about role plays is that is focusing on kinesthetics predominantly. So we need to obviously maintain a balance also, and not just have role plays. So that works true for every activity. So we can't go overboard with one type of activity. It has to be different types. The critical analysis is very crucial. You need to let them think for themselves, not just tell them things, but ask them. Group and pair work, again, very important. Wherever possible, however possible, to incorporate it in the classroom scenario. Application in participants' context, because at the end of the day, if they're able to understand it in context to what is happening around them, they will be able to understand the lessons better. So like for us, I think as language teachers, it's quite beneficial, because whenever we take up the literature lessons, we are able to give them so many more values, and we are able to add on to their repertoire of knowledge by the kind of examples or the anecdotes we share with them. So I think that becomes very effective for us as language teachers. Resolve the learning through considering future and alternative applications of the strategies. Okay, now what does that mean? Basically, reviewing session aims. What we had planned, are we able to conduct the classes in that manner, and has the impact been exactly how we had hoped for? Very important, evaluation. Now the evaluation can be of different types. It could be peer evaluation. It could be when somebody is evaluating you, maybe a colleague is evaluating you, not to give a critical comment, but to perhaps help you understand how to make your teaching practice better. Action plans, of course, we need to be very sure of
the plans that we had in mind, and have we been able to, live up to them? And were they justified at the end of the session? So how do you know a training session has been successful? When the participants can immediately go out and apply what they have learned. For the participant, of course, there has to be some amount of reflection, personal action plan. They need to garner their energies and start working. Further resources. How else are they going to supplement the learning that has happened so that the knowledge that they are gaining is a lifelong thing? It's not just something sporadic. For the trainer and organization, the feedback is essential. The session plan review. They need to know that whatever they conveyed in the session or in the classroom, was it effective? Follow-up. Very crucial. You need to make sure that what you had planned, have the participants been able to incorporate all that. So the follow-up will happen through a process of evaluation. So things to remember in a webinar. Quickly, I'm going to take you through this. So these are things that all of you are familiar with. So it's just going to be a recapitulation. I'm not really adding anything new to it. I'm just telling you exactly how they had gone through the session with us during the workshop. Of course, all of us know the limitations of the platform, that is the online session. So it could be connectivity issues, it could be a problem with the mic, or what I just did right now. I thought if I mute myself, you'll still be able to hear the video. So you see, the limitations are there, but we need to work around it. Send out clear step-by-step joining instructions and links to troubleshoot issues. Both very important. And I think we as English teachers are very meticulous when it comes to instructions. We send them very detailed instructions. We've done that for our listening and speaking skills as well, where we tell them how to use the Chrome browser, what is it that we need to open, how to go about the Google form, and also troubleshoot issues. That, okay, if this happens, if you're not able to hear the teacher, then what do you do? Then check your Wi-Fi settings, check your internet. So we're giving them everything, all the information. Have a moderator to manage the chat and troubleshooting. We did that at the starting of our online sessions because, it was a little, difficult for us to multitask because we were looking at the presentations. But as you can see, we all managed to find ways around it. Importance of participant audio and video. Now, how important that is for you as a teacher, that's completely dependent on you. Would you like them to have their videos on as well when they are speaking, or you're fine with it? That is again something that you as a teacher need to communicate to the students about that. Okay, now this is for teachers. Don't forget your frame. So what that means is that when you switch on your camera, what the children can see behind you should be decent. It should be perhaps a plain white wall. That's what they suggest, that if it's a plain white wall, then there is no scope for any distraction or no scope for any sort of interruption, so to say. So we need to just make sure that the background is clear. And of course, the most important thing, make it interactive, which I think all of us and all of you rather mentioned in the chat window, that if a session is interactive, automatically it's going to be enjoyable. Right, now time to make it interactive once again. Okay, so maybe would you like to speak and or chat? I mean, write the answers in the chat, it's up to you. So what I need to know from all of you is your guiding philosophy. What is your guiding philosophy as a teacher in the classroom? So when you walk into a classroom, what are the things that you have in mind? What is your guiding philosophy as a teacher? Do we have any volunteers? Yes, I think that's very crucial, Abba. Every student is involved. Yeah, Ritu.
Yeah, to get across to all the students and to make even the most difficult things seem very enjoyable and easy. That I think is the guiding philosophy of a teacher, when we walk into a classroom. I mean, one of the most effective things that you want to do is like for example, making the chapter adventure, not seem boring to children. Heart of the Only World seem interesting to them. That is what the challenge is, and that is how one wants to do it.
Absolutely, I agree. And imagine making adventure so much more adventurous than we would otherwise be able to do in a classroom. And even I remember the lesson, the interview. I think when we did it for the online classes, I think it turned out to be brilliant. Otherwise, I would sort of think of it not as something that challenging. But then, when you go through the modules, you realize there is so much more that you can add to your discussions. Yes, exactly. You need to be empathetic to their needs. You need to reach out to all. Empathy is very crucial, involving everybody. Grade all our vocabulary and examples according to the levels of the students is very important. To be well versed with the topic and be able to answer any query. Yes, exactly. To be able to connect with them. Yes. The focus should be on learning rather than teaching. Yes, I think that's very crucial. So the minute we realize that the learning is student centric, automatically a lot of things fall into perspective for us as teachers, and it helps us in formulating our modules accordingly. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. All right, so let's quickly summarize what we've just discussed. I'm going to go a little fast. Inform learners of aims and purpose of learning activities. Make lessons engaging, personally relevant, and appropriately challenging. So that means sharing a lot of anecdotes. But, oh yes, one more expression that I forgot to mention, which one of the participants had talked of, is something called helicopter parenting. So have any of you heard of this term called helicopter parenting? And if you could tell us what it is, maybe, if you've heard of it. Helicopter parenting?
That is where parents really get involved too much into interfering with their everyday learning and, not helpful in a way for the progress of the child, rather interfering in what they feel is right for their child, kind of not letting the child grow, but interfere in every minor issue.
And also, it also means that they keep on taking the child from one a place to the other. It's actually helicopter is, zooming from one place and from one class to the other, and some tuition classes, etc.
Hovering all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Hovering is the word. So that's exactly what they are doing. So you see, that is also a challenge for all of us. And I realized that recently because I have a tendency to, share a lot of anecdotes in class, which I would do in a regular class, and I would do the same thing in an online class. It's only recently that one of my students, I was speaking to her over the phone, and she told me, oh, by the way, ma'am, my mother really liked that anecdote you were narrating in class the other day. And I realized, okay, so I'm not just teaching the children right now, I'm also teaching the parents who are actually listening in to all that we are doing in the online classrooms. So yes, so it's definitely going to be a challenge dealing with that. So yes, making lessons engaging, making it personally relevant, like through anecdotes, and appropriately challenging. Help learners develop a positive and persevering attitude towards their English language learning. Now, this becomes a challenge, especially like when we are teaching the science sections, I feel, because to make them love our subject, oof, you can imagine. Create a positive and inclusive learning environment where learners learn with and from each other and feel confident using English in the classroom. So that comfort factor has to be there, because we know that some are usually very hesitant to speak out. Use assessment to promote and measure learning. Evaluate them basically. Help learners identify the strategies that suit them best to become successful and autonomous language learners. I think all of us are doing this. We just sort of are actually facilitators, and we're just letting them develop on their own skills. Give timely and constructive feedback on learning and progress. Use variety of resources and techniques to meet learners' needs. Encourage learners to reflect systematically and regularly upon their learning and progress. Set and negotiate realistic goals with and for the learners. So that makes sense. I mean, we can't expect overnight that they become flawless in their English, but at least taking them step by step. Help learners develop intercultural awareness and understanding. I think we as language teachers do this probably the most, because we have that the access to speak about so much more than just the literature lesson or just the writing skills that are being discussed in class. So our classes are actually they provide them with so much more than I feel any other classroom. I'm glad this is just the English department attending. I wonder what the others would have said hearing that. All right, session aims. Focus on strategies for preparing and delivering an effective training session. So strategies for the online classroom, beginning with the PowerPoint presentation, and like they kept insisting, the HRD center also, that it's a good idea to keep your cameras on and it'd be nice to let the children see you, but they left that choice to us whether we want to do it. And I know for a fact that a lot of you are actually doing that in your classrooms. You are just generally speaking to the children also, and that is also absolutely fine. Review the importance of takeaway and how to consolidate learning. That's again very crucial. What is it that you're going to take away from that lesson that you have taught in class? And how do you sort of put it into perspective and consolidate that learning that has happened? Gain practical tips on running successful training webinars. So this is essential. Again, the practical tips again would be based on, to begin with, the connectivity issues and of course all your soft skills. And once those things fall in place, then getting the content in one place and talking about it becomes much easier. Discuss guiding principles for training. What is it? We just discussed your guiding philosophy and principles. If you have that in mind, like things like interactivity, communication, making them very engaging, the lessons very engaging, and that would definitely have an impact on how they are learning in the online classrooms. Action points. Do you have a written statement approach to training? What training guidelines can you share with trainers or use when selecting trainers? What kind of feedback could you gather from participants to ensure that training reflects your principles as well as needs? This is something all of us are familiar with. We've done it in our B.Ed, Bloom's taxonomy, cognitive learning objectives. And now I'm going to show it to you in terms of the flipped classroom approach. So understanding the flipped classroom approach. So in a traditional classroom setting, it's basically classroom work, then comes the individual work. But if we are incorporating the flipped classroom approach, then it's individual work first, followed by classroom work. So the child is first putting in that effort and learning, and then applying all that knowledge in a classroom scenario. Supporting your learners, very crucial. Key areas: troubleshooting, communication and collaboration, skills development, motivation and engagement. So I'm going to quickly take you through this. You're all familiar with it. So pardon me if I'm going too fast. Understand your students' level of digital literacy, whether they're able to understand when you tell them, you know, your microphone has not been switched on, or your camera has not been placed properly, or when you explain to them that there is a problem with your Wi-Fi connectivity. Are they able to understand that? Become a power user of the technology. So we need to be very thorough with all these terms, and we need to be very sure of what is it that we are dealing with so that things become easy. Understand the learner experience. Example, mobile versus laptop. So that is something even Mr. B.K. Chaturvedi mentioned, that majority of the EWS children are perhaps accessing the classrooms through their mobile phones. And so they are barely managing it. So we need to also keep that in mind. Be sympathetic to the constraints your learners face. Yes, we know there would be some who would always be making excuses, but then there could also be some genuine cases also where there could be an issue or a problem. Build resilience. There's always a plan B. So if we give them the impression that it's okay, we will manage, we will find an alternative, automatically the children are also going to feel that, yes, my teacher is there for me. All right, so now this is something all of you have been incorporating. I've seen those sessions recently. So communication and collaboration tools. These are the different, if you'd like, you could probably click a screenshot. I know for a fact most of you are using them. I remember attending the class 9th and 10th session that all the teachers had conducted. And I think I was so thoroughly impressed with all the different things that they had incorporated as best teaching practices and what all can be incorporated. So I remember Komal had used Kahoot, and Storyboard was used by Jaya, and Ekta talked about the podcast. And of course, Ramneet and Sanjukta and Divya Thakur, Divya Kapoor, they all contributed. And I think I was so impressed that I was like, wow, I need to also start using these different collaboration tools and make it absolutely fabulous. All right. Would anybody like to add, apart from these, are there anything else that you would recommend us to use, which we could probably use in the classroom? Any other tools? Let me just check the chat window.
Jamboard, which they're already using,
Yes,
some of them.
Yes, Jamboard, yeah, they haven't mentioned it here, but yes, Jamboard. I like the sticky notes that one can use in the Jamboard. Any other unique thing that you might have come across and you could share with us? Please do let us know. I think we can all make our classrooms great.
Ma'am, so there's this one, in Google Slides, there's this one option and it works as a flashcard. So
All right.
I've been using that a lot in my classes and the kids absolutely love it. So at the end of every session that I take, the last 5 minutes are, flashcards. So
Okay.
basically that comes with a, 5-second timer. So within 5 seconds, they kind of have to answer.
Right.
And that has really worked a lot because that also tells me, revision is happening. There's a kind of summary that is happening. All that really works well. And it takes like 20 minutes to make it.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Deepa. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else who would like to share anything innovative or interesting they've come across? All right, so if you do, please do share it with all of us. Right, so the skills that we need to develop: information and digital literacy, critical thinking, collaboration and teamwork, creativity, global and cultural awareness. Questions to ask yourself. I'm not going into too much detail because I know all of you are familiar with these terms, but the questions that we need to ask ourselves: are my lesson outcomes aligned to these skills? So you can just perhaps take a screenshot of this because these are crucial, keeping in mind the century that we're in. Information and digital literacy, critical thinking, collaboration and teamwork, creativity, global and cultural awareness. So as a teacher, we need to incorporate all these in our lessons. Definitely a challenge, but if we have the skills in mind, it becomes easier to work on our modules and lessons accordingly. Do the task or activities encourage learners to utilize these skills? That's again a very crucial question to ask. So it's more like, like a self-evaluation, so to say, to understand if it's effective. And how can I encourage learners to develop these skills further? So it's one thing, as facilitators, we introduce them to these skills. And then we need to see that are we able to encourage them so that they can incorporate it, and of course, ensure that they make it absolutely, a part and parcel of, their learning and of who they are as people. Right, so motivation engagement, basically talking about interactivity, working with peers, relaxed supportive atmosphere, encouraging feedback. So you see, we do that in a regular classroom, and it's more crucial we do that and incorporate it in a virtual classroom. Appropriate level of challenge, games and energizers. And we had just seen the different types of tools that we can use to make the classes a little interesting. I know even the 12th graders like it when we incorporate something different and something interesting, and they get very excited with all that. And that brings me to my last slide. Further resources which we can tap into: resources for teachers. You may click a screenshot, and there are resources for students in case they're interested. These are again given by the British Council. Thank you. Thank you for being such a lovely and wonderful audience. It was an amazing experience, and thank you so much.
So Deepta, can we have the last slide please again? Thank
Sure.
you. Sorry, dear, sorry.
No
I was a
problem.
little late in switching on my mobile.
I'll share this PPT with all of you.
I think if you've done the recording, it is automatically come to everybody.
All right, great.
I think it happens now. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Livano, may I request you to stop recording, please?